Good morning, students. I am Amit Singh and I'll be teaching you economics. Okay, so in economics, this is your first chapter of introduction part economics and economy. So, first of all, let us try to understand what is economics is all about. Here, let me turn on the brush. Yes, economics is that branch of knowledge in which those activities of human beings are studies which they undertake to acquire scarce mean that is wealth to satisfy their unlimited wants. Dictionary meaning of the economics refer to the science which studies human activities relating to wealth. The term economics in English language has its origin from two Greek words, oikos and nomen. Together they mean management of household. So human wants are unlimited, but the means to satisfy them are limited or scarce. These means are called wealth. So when we say that economics, so it is made up of two words, oikos and nemen, which means together it means law of household. Just like in house, a mother manages the house by having some limited or using some limited resources which she have, like resources like salary which your father brings to your house. So within that budget or that salary, she tries to manage the things. Similarly, in an economy, say India or China, there are resources. But all the resources a country cannot have at a particular point of time. Like in India, we don't have so much of production of petroleum. Now, petroleum is a resource. So, we purchase the petroleum from the eastern countries like Iran, Iraq. So we will have to purchase from them simply because we don't have it. So here, human being, what are they trying to do? They are simply trying to maximize their satisfaction by the available resources to them. Whatever the resources are available, whether it is land, labor, capital, all these things are limited in nature, but the human wants are unlimited. Okay, I hope this part is clear. Now the means are called as wealth. When we talk about resources, it is called as wealth of our country. Each household likes to utilize this wealth as to satisfy most of its wants to maximize its satisfaction. So what the household will do, they will try to maximize their level of satisfaction. What they are going to do, simply they are going to purchase goods by spending some money which they have. So that is how they are going to maximize their level of satisfaction. Here they are talking about households. Similarly, producer try to maximize his profit by allocating his scarce resources to the production of different goods and services. Here in this line, they are pointing towards producer. So the producers are having companies. They do productions of various types of goods. Now, when they invest money in the business, it is called as investment. Investment is a fixed capital which has been invested to purchase plant, building, machinery, tools, etc. So here this is their resources in which they will try to maximize their satisfaction, and the satisfaction for company or a firm will definitely earning profits. So how a household or a consumer in household is maximizing his satisfaction by purchasing goods, by spending his level of income or his unlimited resources. Similarly, in firm, they are talking about a single firm here. So they are also having some resources. They also invested some amount. So they will be earning profit out of it, and by earning more profit they will be having enough resources. When they'll be having enough resources in form of profits, they'll be happy. So it is just like, how are you going to meet your uh, wants by the available resources? How are you going to satisfy? Because the resources are limited and human wants are unlimited. So it doesn't match, doesn't mean that how much money are you having. Suppose India, if it becomes like it is having a lot of money and GDP has improved a lot, that doesn't mean that automatically the petroleum resources will also go up for India. No, we'll have to purchase from other countries, and one day when this petroleum will be finished, then we'll not be having, doesn't matter we are having a lot of money with us, but it won't matter, because ultimately the petroleum will be finished. So at that point of time you'll not be able to meet up your demands or needs, whatever you want to do. Say for example you want to ride a car or a motorcycle, that will not be possible. So you are not going to maximize your level of satisfaction even if you have money. Okay. Now at the level of economy as a whole, now they are talking about a whole country. Maximization of satisfaction implies maximization of social welfare. So here they are talking about three things. The household is maximizes their satisfaction by spending goods, and simply they are consuming those goods and they try to satisfy. Suppose you're having 100 rupees, your father has given you 100 rupees. What are you going to do? Because that is a limited resource for you. Now, what will you think? What is the first thing which you want for spending that amount? Definitely, you are going to spend on the thing which is really required for you. Like maybe you need some bread to eat, that you will buy. Then maybe some eggs or milk you want to consume, because your first need will definitely be feeding yourself. Because without, you can live without mobile phones, laptops, but without food you cannot live. So that is the first thing. Then definitely clothes will be a priority. So this is how you're going to manage. But already if you are having all these things, then you can go further for further things like mobile or anything like chocolates which you want to buy. So this is how you are actually satisfying yourself. You are spending that amount of money, but you are spending that according to your choices. What will be the first choice, then what will be the second choice? It will be just like your priority while spending money. Okay. Now at the country level, there is entire society of a country whose welfare they are talking about. And when it will be maximized? Simply when all the resources will be directed towards the welfare of the people. In short, if there is land which is a resource in a country, then it should be used for making hospitals, making schools, making houses at good affordable rates. So that will be good use of resources. On the other hand, if there is requirement of food because our population is increasing, then we can use that part of land for agriculture purposes also. And suddenly if in India, if the population burst up, then in that case we will definitely go for more production. At that time we are going to use land for producing uh, crops which will just like rice, pulses, which will feed us. Because otherwise if we are not going to do more agriculture, then it will be a situation where the prices of the food articles will rise up, and it will be extremely difficult for us to match those things, and our money or resources or salaries will not be enough. Our resources will finish at a glance and we will not be able to do anything for it. Now after this, thus it is to achieve the objective of maximization of satisfaction at the individual level, maximization of profit at the level of producer. As I told you, they are talking about household, producer, and maximization of social welfare at the level of economy as a whole. through allocation of scarce mean alternative use that we need to study economics. So who takes care of this all this, who allocates the resources? The government does the management by making different ministry like Ministry of Natural Resources. So it look after the how much coal has been there, how much aluminum or copper is there, and they, because there are many companies which are extracting these from the earth. So there should be some entity or institution, a body which looks after it, so that exploitation will not be at a very high rate. Otherwise, what will happen if there will be nobody? These companies will extract how much they want, they will take it out, and after that they will, there will be no copper or aluminum. It will be situation like that, so we don't want that. So that's how our government is managing, by making different types of ministries. So we'll read the definition of economics now. So economics is a science of human behavior concerned with the allocation of scarce means like limited resources in such a manner, where we're using resources in such a manner that consumers can maximize their satisfaction, producers can maximize their profit, and society can maximize their social welfare. So this is the definition for economics. Now we'll move further. Let us understand what is scarcity. Okay, imagine yourself as the richest person on the earth. Can you get anything you wish to get at any time? Certainly not. Thus, no matter how much resources mean you have, these must be scarce in relation to your wants. As I told you, if even if in India, suppose the GDP is very high, everybody is earning good level of income, but the petroleum is finished, then what can you do with that money? You cannot make petroleum because it is naturally occurred element. Now that thing is a condition when even if you are having money, you cannot do anything with it. Okay, now let's move forward. What is the definition of scarcity? It refers to a situation when you have is less than what you wish to have. In other words, scarcity implies a situation when supply of resources, this is much better, when supply of resources is less than the demand of resources. When the resources supply is less than the demand, what is our demand? We want to make houses, we need land for it, but at the same time there is limited supply of land. Now suppose a particular part of land is there, and it can only be used for making for doing agriculture, or you can make a house on it, or you can make hospital or an school on it. If you are doing any this kind of activity, what will happen, all your these resources will be gone. Once you make a school in it, then you cannot do agriculture on it, so this part of land will go away. So this supply is limited, but human wants are unlimited. So you will have to think about it, that how to use this resource to maximize our satisfaction at individual level of households. Secondly, for the welfare of the country, because you'll be thinking about it. And the third one will definitely be producers. Now, choice is the outcome of scarcity. Why are we making choices? Why are we giving priority to different things? Suppose if there is need for education in a country, then definitely the land should be used for education purpose. If there is need for food crops, then definitely we should use for this lands for growing crops, so that we can feed ourselves. So this is the thing here. So choices are the outcome of the scarcity, because we don't have everything in an abundance quantity. Now choice emerges when limited resources are to be used for the satisfaction of unlimited wants. A rupee cannot buy things when the price of each thing is 1 rupee. Suppose you are having only 1 rupee and you want to buy 10 units, but you will have to spend 10 rupees for it, but you are having simply 1 rupee. So you cannot buy all the things. Your money will be spent. When you spend all the money, that means your resource has been finished. Now you cannot get more. Suppose your father has given you 100 rupees, and what you have done with that, you have bought 50 rupees pen and 50 rupees registered. Now your 100 rupees is gone. Now you cannot maximize your satisfaction because you don't have further resources with you. You are not having another 100 rupee note with you. Okay, so this is the thing, that is resource for you. You have to choose the thing you would prefer to have. You have to forego 9 things in favor of the one thing you choose to have. You have to make choices simply because you have to face scarcity. So we are facing scarcity, so you'll have to make the choices for it. Now the question may come that why do we make the choice? So why do we make the choice? Because the first thing is resources are scarce. Resources are not in abundance, so they are scarce. That's why we're making the choices. Second thing, that resources can be allocated to alternative uses. What this means, just like I gave you example of land, this is a resource and it can be used for different alternative uses, means different purposes you can have this land for. You can use this land for agriculture, you can use this land for hospitals, or you can use this land for making houses. So this is your choice, but you will have to make choices because this is limited, these resources are limited, and it has alternative uses. Okay, now this part you can leave out, this is not important. Now let us come to the topic, microeconomics and macroeconomics. When the problem of choices, economic problems, are studied and addressed at the level of individual, it is called as macroeconomics. When the problem of choice, economic problems are studied and addressed at the level of the country as a whole, or at the level of different regions in the country, it is called as macroeconomics. So what are they saying here? When we are studying any issue or a problem at the individual level, suppose we are talking about a single individual who is earning money, suppose, say for example, assume it 1000 rupee, then we are talking like how much satisfaction he can get by that 100 rupee, because that is a resource for him at a micro level. So he will definitely try to give priorities to some of the things like food, clothes, education for children, and after that if any amount is remained, so that will be his saving. But if 1000 rupees very less, then it is not possible for him to do all these things. Okay, so that is when we do study about how that person is going to maximize his level of satisfaction, we are doing this study at individual level and on an individual consumer. So that is called as microeconomics. When we say macroeconomics, so at that time we are dealing with the problem related to the entire country, like a general price level, unemployment, total supply in an economy, total demand of the economy. So these things are, this are studied under macroeconomics. Okay, now these definitions are further given. I hope that you got the concept of micro and macro. Now let us discuss one by one. Microeconomics. What is microeconomics? The term micro in English language has been originated again from Greek word mikros, which means small. So this is a Greek word which means small. It studies economic activities of an economic unit, like demand for salt. Now there is single commodity demand by an individual, one person or one household, or economic activities of a small group of economic units, or it can be economic activity of a small group, not a large group, because when we talk about at a very large scale, a large group or entire economy, it will be a level of macro. So here we are only talking about a very small group, and it's just like a total of a few small groups. Suppose few people are demanding salt, so it will be like that. Now like demand for salt by all the households, microeconomics include the study of demand theory, production theory, price determination, and factor pricing. So what is all these things? The microeconomics include the study of demand theory because there is definitely demand for salt, because here they have given the example of salt. Then production theory is there. The firms which will be manufacturing salt, they are going to supply. So who is demanding? We are demanding. Who is supplying? Production firms, means companies. So definitely this demand and supply, according to this demand and supply, there will be a price which is determined. See, if you are demanding a lot of salt, you want a lot of salt in your house, it is, suppose it is a condition, then what will happen to the prices of the salt? It will rise in the market. It will become costly. Salt will become costly. Okay, because why it is becoming costly? Because maybe companies are not able to produce that much amount of salt which you are demanding. Suppose you are demanding 100 packets and the company is able to manufacture according to its capacity only 50 packets, and you are demanding 100. It is just like double demand, so companies cannot match it. What will happen? Because of that extreme demand, the prices will be pushed up in the market, and salt will be sold at a higher price. Also, they're talking about factor pricing or distribution. So what is this thing, factor prices? Factor prices means also depend upon the incomes. Factor of productions are land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. Now the companies are using this land, labor, capital, entrepreneur as a factor services in their company. They will have to make the payment. Suppose they are using capital, then they will be paying interest. Suppose they have taken loan from banks, they will be paying interest on it. Suppose they have taken land from someone and they are paying rent on it. Okay, so interest, rent. If employees hired from household, that is also a factor of production. So what they will have to pay? They will have to pay salary to that person. So income is a matter here which will decide that how much income is generated, because once more income is generated, then definitely it boosts up the demand also. So in macroeconomics, you should just remember this thing, that it is a study of the individual units like a single consumer and individual firm's profit, like that. Okay, or a price of a commodity, one commodity. Okay, not so many commodity, single commodity. Now let us discuss macroeconomics. The term macro in English language has been originated from Greek word macros, which means large. So again, this is a Greek term which means large, macros. It studies economic activities related to economy as a whole. Now this macroeconomics is related to the uh, economic problems which are discussed for entire country. Okay, like total demand by an economy, total supply in the economy. So we are talking about not supply by a single firm. Here we are talking about supply by all the firms in the economy. Okay, for example, it studies aggregate demand. Aggregate means total demand for all the goods and services in the economy. Economy, you can say any country. Okay, macroeconomics deal with aggregates such as national income. Now here you can see example, national income, total employment. Now this is not a matter only one person doesn't need employment. Everybody in the country needs some employment. Okay, so this is a matter related to a country. National income is not about a single person's income, it is about income of the country. Similarly, general price level, it takes into consideration the prices of the different goods available in our country. So maybe for rice, or it will be like gold, it can be anything, but it will be a general price level which tells you about inflation. If general price level increases, that means in a country or in economy the prices of the goods are rising, which means what? Your salary will not be enough to buy the goods and services in the market. So that is we are discussing under macroeconomics. When we talk about a whole unit or an economic problem at the whole level of a country, we go into macroeconomics. So at the micro level and macro level, at both the level scarcity is there, at country level also and at micro level. Because when we talk about micro level, we say what? We talk about a single person and single consumer who is earning some salary, income is there. of individual person he will be spending. So we are talking only about one person. But in macro we are not talking about one single person, we talk about national income, how to maximize national income by generating more employment. So all these problems are discussed under macroeconomics, and we try to find out solutions for it in macroeconomics and as well as in microeconomics. In 11th class you're having book for microeconomics. So in 11th class you will be focusing on microeconomics. Now what is the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics? Microeconomics studies economic relationships at the level of individual, at an individual level. So what it does, it studies economic relationship, or you can say microeconomics studies economic problems at the level of individual units. Okay, here macroeconomics studies economic relationship or problems at the level of a country or economy as a whole. Here they are talking about individual level, here they are talking about a level of a economy as a whole or a country. Second point, what is the other name for macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is also called as theory of price. Same way, macroeconomics is also called as theory of income and employment, because here in macroeconomics we talk about the aggregate output level, means supply by the all the firms, general price levels. So all these are macro factors. Here we are talking about individual industry or firm, like that. So here it is called as theory of price, and here it is called as theory of income and employment. You just have to remember this, what are the names for microeconomics and macroeconomics. The third point is, study of microeconomics assumes that macro variables remain constant. Okay, what is the assumption here? That when we discuss any problem of microeconomics, we assume that macro variables remain constant. Example, it is assumed that aggregate output, which is macro, is given. While given means it is constant. So the output level in a country or an economy is constant. It will not change. Given while we are studying determination of output and price of an individual firm. When we talk about the individual firm's output, that how much they are producing and what price they'll be keeping, so we'll assume that aggregate output is constant in the at the level of economy. Otherwise it will make changes in it, which we don't want to happen. Now here study of macroeconomics assume that micro variables are constant. Here we assume that micro variables are constant. Example, it is assumed that distribution of income remains constant while we are discussing the determination of aggregate output and aggregate income level. So when we talk about aggregate output means total productions and total income level, so we will assume that the distribution of income at the individual level for a person will be constant, there is no change in it. Now the next point, market forces of demand and supply play an important role in the context of macroeconomic problem, like the problem of product pricing or factor pricing. So here it is up to the market forces of demand and supply for determination of a price of a particular product or a factor pricing, like say for example a factor like land, labor, capital. So there will be factor pricing for that as well. If there is shortage of capital in the country, what will happen? If the loans are not provided easily, then if there are shortage, then the loans which are given by the banks will be very costly. They will be giving loans at a very high rate. So it depends actually on supply and demand. Now here it is about government policies. Monetary made by the Reserve Bank of India, and fiscal policy it is made by the government. It plays an important role here. Here supply and demand are playing important role, and here the policies of the RBI and government are playing an important role in context of macroeconomic problems, like the problem of unemployment, poverty and inflation. Okay, so what is inflation here? When the prices of the goods becomes costly in the market, we call it as inflation. So that is inflation. And how it is going to be solved? By discussing monetary policy. RBI, Reserve Bank of India, is going to interfere, as well as government is going to take decision what can we do about the prices which are rising, they will have to bring it down. So that this discussion will be done under macro, and supply and demand, these types of discussions at individual pricing of a firm, it like this, it will be discussed under micro. So that's all. Thank you.